Alright, a very good afternoon, evening, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck. It's Captain Nabs here with you once again. Hey, everybody, it has been a while. First of all, Happy New Year to everybody. It's been a little while since I had a chance to stream, and yeah, it just was a very busy holiday season, as I think for a lot of you it is. Even though we couldn't go out, still had things to do, still had meetings to get out of the way, and just Christmas fun to be had with the close family. So, uh, December was a bit of a write-off as far as my streaming and content creation was concerned. I really just didn't have time. So I thought I would kick off the new year before it gets too old already with a short little flight here. So we are going to hop in the flight deck today, and we're going to be making some money for FSEconomy. So as you can see, I've got myself a TBM. Since I made my first handful of videos, I saved up a whole ton of money and I decided to buy myself my own TBM in the FSEconomy world, which is what I have got here now. So now I've got this TBM ready to operate and ready to make some money. And once you own your own airplane in FSEconomy, it's really quite easy to make a ton of money quite quickly. So this is my TBM here. It's parked at my home base of Morden, Manitoba, and it's got the incorrect registration in there. It's got my streaming registration on there, but in a second we'll go ahead and boot up the FSEconomy client, and that will get us connected. But first, let's get this airplane fired up and ready to go. Just make sure my track IR is enabled, and let's get this TBM up and moving here. Get some power to the airplane here. There we go. We got the screens all lighting up nicely. We'll have a quick look around. I don't see too many people around here, so we are going to go ahead and just fire this puppy up. Get that fuel pump turned on. And turn on the starter. And we'll just clear out that caution there. Should see some NG pretty quickly there. There it goes, about 13%. We're going to go ahead and get that to low idle. And here comes the ITT rise. Fuel is definitely flowing into the engine with that kind of temperature. Just got to monitor that start because we would not want to cook our engine. The engine is probably the most dangerous, the start is probably the most dangerous time for any turbine engine. So there we go, we got about 58%. We put it to high idle. Let the props accelerate to their low idle speed of about 290. You'll see the ITT just keeps on rising. If we don't get this out of feather quickly, that ITT will keep rising uncontrollably till it burns the engine out. But there we go. We got it over to the low idle setting, and I realize as I sit here that I of course did a boo-boo, as I sometimes do, and I forgot to set up my controls for the single engine when the last thing I flew was a twin. So stand by one moment. Alright, that should have worked. I'm not sure why that didn't work, but we're going to move that back to shut off. I think just the transition to the other control scheme, it triggered something. So quick restart here. Yes, we know the engine failed. We're going to start it again. And the lesson is always configure your controls before you start the stream. There's 12%. Introduce some fuel up to low idle. While that's working, let's also just do a few other things here. Keep an eye on that, but we're going to just quickly set 122.8 for VATSIM Unicom. We got a 1200 transponder code right now. We're actually going to switch it to 2000. I don't see any ATC online right now near us. Alright, there's the 58%. Go to high idle feather. Prop stable. Nope, for some reason that one just cut it out completely. And I don't know why it does that sometimes. I've never figured out why that is. Sometimes if you set it over to, if you don't give enough time to idle at high idle, the engine just stops again. And I honestly don't know why that is. That I haven't figured out yet. While we're doing it, let's turn on all of our speed bugs, because I like to have those. I don't know why they're normally off. Okay. High idle. Let the prop get up there to 290. Stable. And this time I think it worked. This time it appeared to work. Yeah, there we go. Okay, this time it's stable. All right. So the starter went back to its auto position. And we'll get the fuel pump to auto as well. Autopilot on, fuel tank selector on. We're going to get the taxi light on as well because we're going to start taxiing in a second here. And we're also going to just set the departure flaps, pitot stall heat, and the bleed system. And that's cleared everything out. We already have our flight plan set in here. We pre-programmed it when we booted up the sim. We just need an altimeter setting, and I just have to look at my other screen for a second just to see that Winnipeg's altimeter is 29056, and that's the closest altimeter we've got to here. 29056. There we go. We're going to go ahead and set up our runway heading here. Should be 28, I believe. And let's set up an altitude. We're planning to cruise at 14,000 feet today. It's a bit of a high cruise, but the one thing about the TBM is she doesn't go fast unless you get up high. So you really tend to want to get her higher than you would normally probably want to go on a leg this short. It's only 80-something miles over to Brandon, Manitoba is where we're going today. It's not a long flight. There we go. Come on. You can do it. Click. There we go. Alright, we got everything set up for takeoff. We can go ahead and take the parking brake off, and we can also remember, before we forget, to activate our FSEconomy window. There we go. Got the FSEconomy window set up, and that's it. We're good to go. Quick look around. I don't see anybody. Give her a little bit of power. Let's get going here. Try not to hit this guy with our wingtip. Watch out, buddy. Watch out. Let's try to get back to this taxiway over here. And away we go, making some money. So this is not a particularly lucrative run. This one's only going to make me about $700, but the return leg's going to make me about $3,000 or $2,100, I think it was. Between the two legs, they'll make me about $3,000. Try not to hit the van. Really? Thanks, van. Lord. Alright, but away we go. Gonna depart Morden, windsock. Yeah, it's kind of more or less a straight cross one, so we're gonna take the shorter taxi here down to the 29 end. 28 end. I forget if it's 28 or 29. Morden traffic. TBM Charlie Golf X-Ray Sierra is taxiing to, or is backtracking runway at 28 for departure. I think it's 28. I don't have the chart handy. I've flown here so many times you'd think I would have the chart handy, but I don't. Alright, so we're taking the runway, so we're going to get the strobes on. And away we go. The nice thing about FSEconomy is that it kind of, especially once you own your own airplane, is you tend to get very familiar with the airplane types that you own, and you can generally get them fired up and going pretty quickly here. Not that it matters that much if you're only renting airplanes from yourself, then it doesn't cost all that much to rent it. It is 2.8, there you go. But nevertheless, I feel quite comfortable with the TBM now. First, I was very unsure how to really operate it, but I've become very familiar with it. Don't stop in the turn. Come on. Keep going. Alright, let's get the landing lights on, and got the flaps set. Let's do it. Away we go. Looking for a 90-knot rotation speed, and here comes the speed bug right there. Oh, she's so finicky on the runway here. She's so finicky. Alright, positive rate. Gear up. It's so easy to over-control these airplanes on the runway. And part of it, I think, also is just you lack that force feedback too. So you really have to imagine your own force feedback. If you had an active force feedback system, it probably would go a lot better. But there we go. We got her off the ground safely. Gonna climb to 1,000 feet above the ground. There we go. We'll go ahead and retract the flaps before we overspeed them. Gets a little pitch down on the nose, and we'll go ahead and just turn towards that on course there. I will go ahead and set up the flight director if it will turn on for me. Why won't it turn on? There it is. Just had to take a second to find me there. But you know what I also like to do is I also do like to hand fly sometimes. Sometimes when you're flying these FSEconomy flights and you're trying to get a bunch of stuff done, you don't want to always hand fly, but I like to hand fly. I think it's great. I think it's part of the fun of the simulation, and especially the reason why you buy a yoke is not for 10 seconds of takeoff and landing, but is to really enjoy the sensations of flight, which you do get in this simulator quite well. I always have liked them. I think they're pretty... They're not great. They're not fantastic, but I think partly because of just the fidelity of the scenery that you get a real sensation of flight. I think that's what really kind of does it, is it's just the fidelity of that scenery. Just gives you sort of that sensation that you really are kind of soaring above a landscape. It's not just a bunch of green polygons. It is a real representation of the world out there. All those roads really exist in Manitoba. You know, those villages, those houses, those farms, everything really exists, and it adds kind of it really adds a nice dimension to it. I really tend to feel like I'm out there really flying. Why did this not... I don't know what's going on with this thing today. Alright, let's try it again. Nav. Because for some reason it doesn't seem to want to capture the nav here. And we'll do flight level change again. See, because I'm paralleling the course here, and it's happy for me to be here. Ugh. I was gonna say during this stream that I thought that Asobo had done some good work in kind of improving a lot of these things, a lot of these mechanics, the autopilot mechanics. Not perfect, but the GPS system, the autopilot mechanics. Now, I'm just curious, if I turn on the yaw damper and the autopilot here, is it... See, if I turn on the autopilot, it makes the turn, but it won't make the turn if I'm hand flying. Interesting. That I never noticed. I haven't done that much hand flying on the specific FSEconomy missions. So isn't that interesting? That the navigation mode won't work properly if the autopilot is off, if you're just flying in flight director mode, which is strange. It should make no difference. The flight director and the autopilot are independent. The autopilot just always tries to follow the flight director, but the flight director can be up there without the autopilot on and just guide the pilot around. So isn't that strange? If I take the autopilot off again, is it going to leave me on there, or is it going to just forget me? And I feel like it's going to forget me. See what happens if I put the autopilot on. Yep, the second I put the autopilot on, there it goes, it starts turning. Isn't that a strange, it's a strange handling characteristic. I've never seen that before. I have done a lot of flying with the autopilot on in this airplane, but I did not realize that it won't track the nav without the autopilot on, which is just stupid. What's the point of having a flight director? It's kind of nice to actually fly the airplane sometimes. Here comes 10,000 feet. Go ahead and get our lights off. And a quick pressurization check. Cabin's definitely climbing there. Stay at a constant 500 rate. The differential's good. Perfect. Interesting, though. I had not noticed that the autopilot, that the nav mode does not stay properly engaged if the autopilot's not on. And it's funny because since I last streamed this, there have been quite a few updates pushed. And I was getting happier with some of the stuff that they were pushing out. Some of it I thought was kind of pointless. Like, not pointless, but some of the scenery additions, I think to myself more, there's tons of third-party developers out there working on scenery, guys. what you need to focus on is the base sim, not the scenery. Focus on the base sim, on making the airplanes more polished, more complete, and making sure these systems work properly. Because I have noticed that a lot of things have been sort of slowly improving. The weather seems to be a little bit more reliable. It doesn't always work, but it seems to come in more reliably now than it did for a while there. Let's see what else. The flight plans definitely are a little bit easier to fly now. And what I mean by that is, like, you can actually select these waypoints, hit direct to a waypoint, and it will properly take you to those waypoints, and then it can even pick up the flight plan again. So some of the stuff it wasn't doing, the most basic navigation functions the GPS was not doing originally. That's 13 climbing 14. So I was disappointed by that initially. You know, the GPS, like the flights were almost unworkable. The airplanes were almost unworkable unless you were guaranteed flying the originally filed route. But if you had any kind of variation in it, if you're flying live on VATSIM and you get a change in runway or something like that, then you know, you often couldn't handle it. You often couldn't do. Alright, so here we are, level at 14,000. And I think I need to resync my track IR. That's a little better. To a comfortable location. Alright. Now, our flight plan here today is pretty simple. We're going direct to Talop for Brandon. However, at Talop, we have to do the arrival. And one thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that these procedures get set up early in this aircraft. So Talop 2, and actually let's just check the weather in Brandon. So I'll go to my second screen again, just a second. Second screen, any weather in, or not, that's not Brandon, I just typed Winnipeg again. Brandon, Manitoba. The winds are out of the west, so I believe it's runway 26, so we're going to be landing on that. So runway 26, Talop 2, load that. And hopefully that will have done it correctly. And we can go back to our flight plan and see if it added any additional fixes. I'm not sure if it actually adds any additional fixes. Arrival, Tanba. Yes, it did. So it added one additional fix because it really is quite a simple arrival. And then what we can also do then is also do procedures. And we can plan an approach for runway 26. We can do... There's an ILS to 8, there's an RNAV, a Zulu runway 26 would probably be the best one to try and do. Transition via SACSIG is the only transition available, so let's load it. And then we always have to be careful when you're flying this airplane and you load anything in. It used to be that if you loaded this approach, it would go back to the start of your flight plan, go all the way back here, and then start going there and fly your approach and everything else. So it seems like some of those issues have now been fixed, which is nice to see, because man, they were frustrating. All right, so I'm not going to activate, but that is all in there, and let's just go and check out the flight plan route here and see if it figured it out. So Talop and then Brandon. And then SACSIG CNC, and it's, by the looks of it, it's messed things up here. So let me just get a little, see if I can just get a little closer here. Unfortunately, my track IR is not aimed very well at me here. So let's see if I can get a little closer there. There we go. Okay, so after Talop, we are supposed to go to Tanba and then join the arrival. So let's see if I can... No, I cannot remove this waypoint because it's part of the approach. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to sort of manually link things together. And this is still an issue with more complex transitions. So this one, let's see if I can pull it up here on my Navigraph just to show you what it's done here. Again, it's a sim that still has a strongly beta feel to it. Lots of things that should be working are not working, and it's definitely a little bit frustrating sometimes. Okay, so here is, oh, there it is. So there is my Navigraph charts. So we're going to do the Talop to arrival, which basically we go direct to Talop, and then for the straight into 2-6 we go directly to Tanba after that. And at Tanba we transition to the approach. Can't do that because this is not my file flight, that's fine. However, there's a transition, and because it's the only transition, it's automatically included that waypoint of Saxig. What a good GPS or FMS will do is they will recognize that a fix from the arrivals is also on the approach, and it will link those two together instead of basically what it's done is unlink them. So what I'm going to have to do is when I get to Talop, I'm just going to have to hit direct to Tanba and do that, which is a bit unfortunate. It's not ideal. It's VMC conditions anyway, so it's not going to be much of an issue, but yeah. These are the sort of things that they're not still quite working the way they should. They're not working as well as Flight Simulator could, so we'll accept it for now. Except that Asobo is hopefully going to work on it. As I said, like, this has improved a little bit. Some of the Direct-to functionality has improved. The recalculating of the approaches now, it seems to mostly work where you get to the fix, where if you change the approach, it won't take you back to the beginning of the flight, but it will just change what's after where you are right now. So they've been tweaking some things, they've been improving some things, stuff that probably should have been happening right off the bat, but I guess we can't all be perfect all the time, so I'm trying not to be too much of a complainer about it, but it is a little frustrating sometimes, and I do wish that things were a little bit better. So there it is. It goes to Talop, and then it wants us to go to Saxig and Tanba, when really what these arrival is telling us is to go from Talop direct to Tanba and join the final there. So that's what we're going to do, because that's what's expected of us. And we are going to make appropriate calls on Unicom, because we are flying live on the VATSIM network. Unfortunately today there's no ATC for our area, no Winnipeg Center. So we'll just make do without today. I was kind of hoping there would be something, but no. But there have been some good additions to this sim with the latest update. Obviously, many of you are very happy about the fact that VR is now available. So for those of you that were waiting or hoping, go check it out now, because the latest update that came out just a little bit before Christmas, I believe, included some support for VR finally, which was not something that was built in from the get-go. I don't think they were expecting the huge support, but with a world like this, why wouldn't you? I mean, Track IR makes it pretty nice to look around as it is. Like a VR world would just be fantastic for this. So the fact that they were spending all this money and time on this scenery, and then they said, oh yeah, but who wants VR? And sometimes I laugh at the market research that apparently did not go on. So that was great. I don't have a VR headset. Sometimes I think it would be nice, but frankly, wow, for the cost of those things, I cannot justify that kind of cost, even for the level of immersion it will bring. Track IR more than covers me for that. Other things that got included, and that was a kind of a nice holiday surprise, was the fact that snow is now more prevalent in the sim. Snow is now automatically calculated and displayed, in the sim. So whereas before, like, if you didn't go into the menus and specifically say snow on the ground, I don't even know where. Yeah, here, snow depth. If you didn't go in there and specifically say something, it wouldn't automatically do it. They wouldn't download any information. But now they actually have information about it. So about snowfall in the sim. So sometimes you'll boot up at a location and there will just be snow. I'm not sure. I would think that Manitoba in early January would probably have already had snow. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just stereotypical against Manitobans. I don't know. But I would have thought. Let's just check this approach one more time, or this arrival. Is there any other altitude restrictions? I saw 10, but at or above 3,000, that's it. So, and max 200 knots. Okay. So we can go ahead and start down now. We can probably go all the way down to 3,000. Because we're going to be at Tanba in about 5 minutes with this aircraft. It doesn't take long to cover some of these distances. It's only a 100-mile flight anyway, so my plan today is to do this flight and the return flight. Do them pretty quick here. But now that we've got the airplane fired up and we've got the sim running, shouldn't take too long. So let's see here. Let's do VS. We got to lose about 12,000 feet. And we got about well, actually, no, we only have to lose about 10,000 feet, and we got about 6 minutes to do it. So probably about 1,600 feet per minute will do. So that'll increase our speed a little bit. We'll pull the power back a little bit here, but overall it should work out nicely here. A little bit of a hazy day out here on the prairies. Not the most interesting scenery in the world, but this is my FSEconomy world here. I have the FBO at Morden, Manitoba, which if you guys saw my video about creating an FBO in FSEconomy, you've seen me build that FBO. Actually, if you look down there, there is some snow on some of those fields there, just sort of in the shady areas. There's some that is snow on some of those fields, so there is some snow texture already loaded into the sim here. But yeah, so we got. Yeah, this is my home base is Morden, Manitoba, so I tend to do a lot of flights to and from Morden because I can refuel my airplane cheaper at my home base. I can repair it cheaper at my home base. And then the two kind of support each other. Having an aircraft in FSEconomy and having an FBO, the two kind of go hand in hand. You get cheaper operating costs for an airplane because you own the airplane yourself. You get cheaper operating costs for the FBO because you own the FBO. So, and then you can generate traffic for your airplane to places that you want to go, you know, with leg lengths that you like. So, I like some shorter, some longer, but not like super long. Like, you know, an hour or so in the TBM is a nice length. And sometimes you just want to do a short leg and just make a little bit of money. And those short legs, they're a lot of work to do because you're literally up and down sometimes. But they tend to be more lucrative. If you can fill the airplane, you'll tend to make more money per hour of operating the airplane. You may do like a half an hour, 40-minute flight, and you may make $3,000 or $4,000. Whereas if you do a 2-hour flight, you may only make $5,000. So you tend to get diminishing returns the longer the flights get in FSEconomy. That's one thing you'll kind of notice about the distance versus the price the price you get paid. You'll make more money doing shorter flights per hour flown. It'll take a little bit more workload because it's more takeoffs and landings to get the same amount of money, but you'll tend to make it actually a little bit faster. Alright, so we're almost to Talop here. Now we got 2 minutes to Talop. And we probably got about 4 minutes to get to Tanba, and we need to be at about 3,000 at Tanba, so we got to lose about 6,000 feet in about 4 minutes. Yeah, 1,500 feet per minute should do it, and we're doing 1,800, so I think we should be fine. That'll give us a little bit of margin at the end to slow down, too, as we start the approach for our max 200 knot speed. And there we go. We are on our way. Already in descent. It doesn't take very long to do this. So here is my TBM. Got this nice livery from the livery pack, and there's the registration. If anybody who ever watched the Twitch stream wants to go fly it, it is open for rent on FSEconomy. The registration is Charlie Golf X-Ray Sierra. Normally keep it in Morden, Manitoba, but I'll, you know, you guys can take it and fly it anywhere you like, and I'll probably bring it home at some point. So please feel free, guys, if you're interested, go rent this airplane and help put some hours on it. Help make you some money. It's not, I think my price on the TBM is pretty fair. It's not the lowest in the world, but it's enough to cover my hourly costs and my monthly costs. And it's definitely not one of the more expensive ones anyways. Okay, so now it's making its turn here, so I'm going to put it in heading mode for a second here so it stops turning. And we're going to do Tanba direct to, activate direct to Tanba. And then if I put it back into nav, it should... Yes, there it is. And it should, and I don't know if it's going to do this because sometimes it seems to and sometimes it doesn't, but it should, when it gets to Tanba, automatically resequence the waypoints, start the arrival waypoints again. We'll see if it works. I don't know if it's going to work, to be honest, but we're going to try it. What the heck? So we now have 2 minutes to Tanba. We've got about 3,000 feet to lose at about 1,800 feet per minute. Yeah, we'll get to Tanba. We'll just have to start decelerating a little bit, level off just a little bit before Tanba. Let's just check that Brandon and altimeter 2951. There's 2951, there's 29er. I never set the standby there. Being a bad pilot here. There's 2951. There we go. So if anyone else out there is watching and has any comments on the latest update from Microsoft Flight Simulator, especially about the VR aspect, I have not. I don't have a VR headset, so I have not tried that out. Seems like it's pretty useful and fun way to enjoy the sim. But I've enjoyed the snowfall. I think one of the first flights after the update, I was in doing a flight out of Jackson Hole. Actually, when I bought this airplane, I had to ferry it home, and I was ferrying it home through Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And it was snowy there. There was snow everywhere on the ground there, and just created automatically by the update, which is really nice. I really enjoyed that. I think it's a welcome addition to the sim here. There we go, 4 for 3, with less than a minute to go, but that'll give us some time to decelerate, and the Brandon Airport should be, I think that's it over there. I think that line over there in the distance is the runway. So we're just going to start leveling out here. We're going to pass, and it looks like it did sequence. Did it sequence here? We got 2 miles to go to Tanba, so I don't know if it's actually sequencing or not. I'm going to go ahead and set this heading bug to 28. 26, sorry, I think it was. And then if it doesn't sequence on its own, no, now it wants, maybe it does. The other thing that's also still annoying, because it doesn't always work properly, slow down a little bit too soon, I think, here, is that these displays don't always quite correctly calculate where you are and where you should be going. So it looks like it did sequence. Now it's on the Saxig to Tanba waypoint, and there it is, Tanba to Tugel. So it did sequence correctly, and that is something that was definitely not working properly at all before. Direct to anywhere on your flight plan would just eradicate your flight plan. So now it will continue on your flight plan after that, which is what should have happened in the past, and it's nice to see that that's happening now. So I believe that is the runway up there. We're just crabbing a little bit for the wind here, making sure we're established on our final approach course. The autopilot's still flying. And we'll just get ready to go down a little bit lower here. And we'll just start a slow descent here of about 700 feet per minute. Should do it. And we'll have to disconnect at some point and hand fly it. And the nice thing about some of these airplanes, they're so realistically modeled that the placards are all modeled. So if you're not sure about an aircraft's speed limits, look around for a placard, because there's usually a placard pretty close by. So if you want to know flaps extended speed in this aircraft, takeoff flaps 178, landing flaps 122, and the landing gear can be operated at 178 going down. So we are good to put the flaps and the gear down now if we want to. I think we're getting a little bit low, so I'm going to just get a little more comfortable again here. Just going to ease this up, because I feel like we're getting a little bit too low, too far out here. We'll drag it in here, and we'll just make a quick stop in Brandon, shut down for a couple of minutes, reset all my FSEconomy stats, and continue back to Morden, Manitoba. And make probably about $3,000, because once you own your own airplane too, one of the really nice things about owning your own airplane is it really costs you very little to operate it. You pay for the fuel, and you have to pay a little bit for the, for the fees on the aircraft, but relative to the money you make, quickly becomes almost nil, as opposed to actually renting somebody else's airplane. So I highly encourage you to go out there and, if you can, pick an aircraft that you like, and one that has decent performance, that has decent load carrying capacity, and fly it, and buy it and fly it. Save some money, buy it, and fly the pants off it. Let's go ahead and get the takeoff flap there. Oh, really pitched the nose there a little bit, didn't it? Oh, too far. And let's go ahead and get the gear down. A little bit of snow in the fields. It's really kind of a nice effect. They've done quite well there with the snow on these fields. It looks like a very late winter, kind of early spring kind of look to it there. Alright, so we got 3 green, we got the flaps down to takeoff position. And we need to start slowing up a little bit. Our target approach speed is 85 knots in this aircraft, so we got to lose a little bit more. Once we get out the landing flap is almost all drag, so I just need to eke the speed back below 122. So I'm just going to pitch up just a little bit too high on the approach here just to get that speed back, because once I drop these landing flaps here, there they go, then the speed really bleeds off. She pitches up quite a bit, but the speed bleeds off really quickly, and you end up always having to add some power back so you don't lose too much speed. I'm already getting this real sensation of starting to sink here on the approach. So there we go. Brandon traffic, TBM Charlie Golf X-Ray X-Ray Sierra is on final runway 26 full stop. Almost forgot to make my traffic calls. I was too busy talking to you guys. Quiet please while he focuses. It's like the winds are almost right down the pipe. The windsock's just over there on that side. A little bit of a crosswind from the left. Alright, Brandon's pretty easy. I've been here a couple times already making deliveries because it pops up quite a bit on my FSEconomy airport at my FBO as a destination, so it doesn't take a whole lot to get here. It's really simple. There's one taxiway here, so we'll vacate the runway. A little bit of snow off there in the sides there. It's kind of nice, kind of a nice effect. Alright, clear the runway. We'll go ahead and get the flaps up. Turn off the lights. I never turned the landing light back on through 10,000 feet, but we can turn the strobes off, turn that to taxi. And we can also, just in preparation, we'll shut off the aux boost pump, shut off the bleed, and shut off the pitot install heats. And welcome to Brandon, Manitoba. It looks chilly out there. Kind of glad we're snugly inside our warm airplane here. So we're going to go ahead, go down here. There's a lineup of aircraft parked over here near where the flight service station would be. I don't think it used to look like this. I think these are new textures by the looks of it. I don't think the building used to look like that. I think they've loaded some new textures in for some of these buildings. The hangars look the same, but that building I don't think looked like that before. So we're just going to try and find a place to park here. There's not too many places. One thing about Brennan is there's usually a lot of airplanes and not a whole lot of apron here. So I'm just going to kind of eke off the taxiway here right next to this PC-12. Brandon traffic, Charlie Golf X-Ray X-Ray Sierra is clear for runway 26. And we'll just stop right there for a moment. We'll set the parking brake. That'll trigger the shutdown of the FSEconomy. And we'll shut the aircraft down really quickly here. Pity you can't open the door. There we go. And I'm just going to quickly reset for my next FSEconomy flight, where we will just return right back to where we came from. Let's see here. Yep, that's there. Fuel is good. Aircraft is still good. Okay, good. So she's all ready to go. So it really doesn't take much sometimes to reset and get on to the next leg in FSEconomy, which is great. It can be very quick and easy. If there's another leg for you to do, then the flight, then the aircraft. What am I trying to say? Then the aircraft stays rented. It's all good. So, all right, let's do this. So let's just reprogram our flight plan really quickly here. CYBR, enter. Honestly, sometimes this thing's a bit of a pill because the scroll wheel gets stolen. And then we're going to see if we can cancel out some of these things. Okay, just stop beeping at me for a second. Select destination airport CJA3, Morden, Manitoba, and now it's all in there. And I'm just going to really quickly go over to my sim brief and see if there's a recommended route or if it's just direct, which I feel like it's probably going to be direct. It's such a short flight. The other thing, of course, is we'll just need to quickly refile on VATSIM as well. Swap those. And the recommended route is via a fix called Tugil. So that's what we're going to do. File that flight plan. Alright, so we've refiled it. Add on route waypoint. This has definitely gotten better than it used to be at adding stuff into the flight plan and changing the flight plan. And that's nice. That's, you know, I really think that's important. Like, if you fly online, things change, and you need to be able to change what you're doing while you're flying. So there we go. Now we've got the waypoint. There's Tugil. Oh yeah, and then that's it. And then direct. Easy peasy. So let's go ahead and fire this baby back up again. Get that fuel pump on, and oops, fuel pump on, starter on. And there it goes. It's counting. Tick, 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 tick. Low. Watch that ITT and that NG, but while it's doing that, I'm going to quickly just dial up the altitude of 15,000 here. And that's what happens when your mouse slips even slightly. It's a problem with track IR users, is that you move your head ever so slightly, your mouse slips off where you want to be. Alright, there's 56%, and perfect, because I just set 15,000. High idle. Prop stabilize. 280. And now, before it hits red, over to taxi idle, and it looks like it worked. It stayed stabilizing, but we're not losing torque there, so good. All right, let's just get everything turned back on again for our next leg, the bleed system as well. And we're going to turn the taxi light on. The fuel pump goes to auto, and everything else is on still. Parking brake off, and let's just get that FSEconomy activated. And there it is, it's active. Brandon traffic, Charlie Golf, November Alpha, Bravo, correction, Charlie Golf, X-Ray, X-Ray, Sierra is taxiing from the apron for departure runway 26. Alright, so we're getting our flaps out there. Flaps are at the takeoff setting, and away we go. Quick turn and burn. We booted the people out. We got the next people in, and let's go. It's cold out there. Nobody wants to hang out in this kind of weather, do they? We're slowly losing the sunshine here, but we should easily be back in Morden before the sun runs out. Brandon traffic at Charlie Golf, X-Ray, X-Ray, Sierra is taking position runway 26 for departure, left turn out towards Morden. Alright, clear right and left down the runway. Let's go ahead and get those lights on, that one and that one. Yeah. Alright, bit of a crosswind, but we'll make it work. And away we go. Try and be a little bit less squirrely than last time. Did not reset the takeoff trim there, apparently. There's 90. Positive rate, gear up. And always reset your takeoff trim, because boy, that thing wanted to pitch skywards as soon as she got some power, didn't she? Holy moly. Right, there's 1,000 feet. Retract those flaps. And let's go ahead and start that turnout. Brandon traffic Charlie Golf X-Ray X-Ray Sierra is in the left turnout off runway 26. Trying to just finesse this, trim it a little bit. It really is hard to trim in Flight Simulator, and it's just the nature of all the sims. It's hard to trim them because you just don't get that force feedback through your yoke, so you're constantly trying to just sort of wiggle your yoke back and forth while you're trimming, and it doesn't really work very realistically that way. It's unfortunate. Alright, so nav, flight level change. And I'm going to have to do this the old-fashioned way if I want to do any hand flying, aren't I? This time we should have a little bit of the wind behind us. Should make it back hopefully in less than 20 minutes. And for about 40 minutes worth of flying in my TBM, I'll have made about $3,000 in FSEconomy. It's not a huge amount, but nevertheless, it's fun. It adds some purpose to what you're doing. We loaded up some people in the back there, 4 people in total, and we're flying them back to my home base of Morden. Alright, not quite on the course there, so let's just turn left a little bit and get on established on course. See, this seems to be working correctly, but the flight director is just leading me astray. It's not letting me go anywhere. I don't know why. It's a little annoying. I'm trying to just trim to hold a nice kind of roughly 160 climb speed, but it doesn't seem to want to work for me. Well, it's pretty close there. I'm pretty happy with that right there. Alright, so we're pretty much direct at Tugel at this point. My goal is just to sort of hit Tugel, which is only 2 miles away anyways, and then the turn to Morden. The other thing as well you'll notice that I've noticed about these moving maps is, as good as they look, the rounding of the turns is often huge. It often starts like 2 miles, and if you're only doing like 120, 150 knots, you don't need 2 miles to make a 30-degree turn. But the rounding of these things is often huge, but it doesn't usually match what's on here. Usually the autopilot will lead you on a much tighter turn, more appropriate to your speed. So it's already recognized that we're on our way from Tugel to Morden. And that magenta line is coming in there nicely. The track bar is coming in there nicely, so let's get turned over there to the correct track, and we should be able to get there pretty quickly, even without using the autopilot too much. There we go. Got the wind behind us now. True speed of 181, ground speed of 202 already, and we're in the climb at 202. So at this speed, it's going to be 23 minutes back to Morden, but we're accelerating, so you can see the seconds are decreasing really quickly there. We're going to be there real quick. About 15 minutes really of flying is all we're probably going to need. Just looking at this, we're a little bit off course. It kind of matches with that, so we'll just crap a little bit here. It really is frustrating sometimes not having the flight director lead me there. I have to do it really just by looking at the track bar. I almost might as well turn the flight director off at this point for all the good it's doing me. Just fly it the old-fashioned way. So for those of you that have been watching my YouTube channel, you know that today I put out a couple of videos just helping people get started on VATSIM and providing a little bit of information on how to do a VFR circuit. I hope you guys watch those videos. I'm going to have some more. As I said, December ended up being, I won't say I took an intentional break, but it did end up basically being a break from streaming, from making videos, because I just was... there was so much going on with relations to Christmas and the holidays and everything, and you know, kids being off school and all that good stuff. So I ended up not spending nearly as much time. I ended up spending almost no time on content creation. It was not really my intention, just sort of the way things happen. So for this new year, we are going to be getting back into making some more videos again. One thing that I am looking forward to, and I'm going to try and do, is get my Pilot's Life streams started again. Probably not as frequently as I have in the past, because I don't want them to dominate my streaming calendar. I'd like to do more streaming of Microsoft Flight Simulator, doing various things in the sim. I really should take the Dreamliner out one of these days and have a little bit of fun with it. Maybe learn it on a live stream. That'll be a great way to learn it. That's not my way to learn, but it just might be fun. So I'm going to be looking for some things to do on live streams coming up. Definitely going to be trying to get some different things in there. So I will be doing a Pilot's Life. I will be resuming that soon. But that won't be the only thing I'll be doing this year. I'll be trying to get some more videos out there in various formats. Just things are still chaotic, unfortunately. The pandemic still is what it is. It's still going on, and it's still having a big impact on my personal life, on my work life as well. There's 14,000 climbing 15,000. We passed through 10,000, so we need these lights off. It really has made a big impact on my work, not always for the better. Definitely has made the schedule a lot less easy to predict. So a bit difficult dealing with that sometimes. Leveled off a little bit early there. Back up just a little bit, get it climb a little bit more. So I do plan to do more content creation. I have not, my channels are not dead by any means. They've just been a little bit on hiatus. It's been kind of a nice break anyways too over the holidays. Honestly, this is the first time I've been home for the holidays, properly home for a long stretch over the holidays in 4 years, and was probably going to be the first time, probably the last time for quite a while as well, depending on how 2021 goes. So it was nice to be home and try and take advantage. Alright, I'm just going to put the autopilot on now. Oh, really? Pitch up? Stupid autopilot. Where are you going? Why are we pitching up to 16,000? Well, that was really kind of useless, honestly. Really? Pitch up to 16,000, 17,000 before you start to get it back under control again? And now we can put it in nav mode as well. Now we're going to pitch way down here to send it 3,000 feet per minute. Oh, Jesus Lord. Sometimes I like so much about this sim, and I just love the way it looks. But sometimes I hate the way the airplanes function. I really do. So much work still to be done at Sobo. Stop worrying about world content updates and get to work on really fixing this sim and making it so that other developers can have good access to the sim and do what they do best with the simulators. Because, you know, we don't have any good quality airplanes for this sim yet. We're stuck with the default airplanes, and they're not great, as we have just demonstrated. Really not great. But we're stuck with them because the SDK is so underdeveloped that nobody can work with it. Just, I think, on New Year's Eve, I think it was, Aerosoft announced that their CRJ, which they were hoping to have out in the last quarter of 2020, is not coming out and is definitely postponed into 2021 sometime. When you post on New Year's Eve, that was kind of obvious and kind of went without saying. But yeah, a little disappointing, but not surprising. And then this is the thing, is that, you know, the SDKs and then the functionality is just not there yet. It's not at all ready for the mainstream. It's not ready for the developers to really start tackling it and start cracking this sim wide open and doing what they do best. And it's very frustrating because we would all love to get our hands on some higher quality airplanes than what is built into the sim right now. And instead, Asobo is spending a lot of development hours on huge world content updates, and we don't need that. We really need Asobo. You really have to focus in focus in on fixing the parts of the sim that don't work, fixing the default airplanes, making them more flyable. You know, fix the aerodynamics, fix all the basic stuff, get the sim up to a workable condition. Because right now it is frustrating to fly. It still is. Not too bad. We're doing 313 knots towards home, though. 50 miles to go, and it's going to take us less than 10 minutes to do it at that rate. So we're going to start down very soon here. Let's just take another weather report from Winnipeg. Winds out of the south, 180 at 16, gusting 21. 29056 on the meter again in Morden. So let's go ahead and set that now. 29056. Set twice. Looking good. And yeah, so let's see here. 15,000, we're going to need to join the circuit in Morden. We're going to need about 13,000. It's beautiful VMC. I'm not even going to bother programming an approach at all. We'll just join the circuit. We actually, I may even do just a straight into runway 08 because the winds in Winnipeg are 180. I think it's 21. You know what, we'll do a quick overhead pass. We'll see what the windsock looks like, and we'll pick a runway from there. So we want to be overhead the field at about 3,000 feet, which means, let's see here, we have about 12,000 to lose. So if I want to target 1,500 feet per minute, yeah, 8 minutes would be about right, which is where we are right now. So let's do it. 3,000 feet, and let's start down now. Winding, winding, winding. Something else that I think they could fix, because some of the other aircraft, the jets tend to have, the more you roll these altitude bugs up and down, the faster they go. This one, no matter how far you try to roll it, it just goes at a constant rate, which is, again, a little frustrating. All right, VS minus 1,500. And down we go again. Quite a good amount of detail on the outside of this airplane. I do like it. Even down to like the exhaust shimmer here. As simple as that is, some of those effects, they really add just a nice element. You really believe that air is coming in and exhaust is coming out when you can see that shimmer. Oh, I love this. I love this metallic blue heated intake lip here. Ooh, that is a nice color. Oh, I really like this. This is a very nice paint job. I do like this paint job a lot. I think it looks really nice. Probably should be paying more attention inside to what's happening, but anyways. So I don't forget, even though we're a little bit above 10,000 feet, I'm going to get those landing lights on now. And how are we doing here? We are now 5 minutes away from Morden. Might just bump up just the descent rate just a bit more here. And see when we can spot that field. I don't think we can see it yet, but we'll see it soon enough. So if anyone else has any other reactions to FSEconomy or Flight Simulator, feel free to post them in the chat window there. I think Asobo's on the right track with Flight Simulator, but again, their focus is sometimes needs a little bit of work. They're on the right track, and things are slowly being tweaked and fixed. In another 2 or 3 years, this will be a high-quality sim. It's going to take us a little while to get there, I think. But it certainly is, for VFR flying, it's a beautiful sim. The IFR end of it, it's getting better. But certainly in terms of trying to fly like a Friday night ops on the VATSIM network, I'd shy away from using the flight simulator aircraft because they're the default aircraft do not have powerful enough FMCs to make last minute changes very frequently. But for just doing some VFR flying around, burning up some liquid dinosaurs, poking some holes in the sky, she is a beautiful vehicle. How are we doing here? Less than 5 minutes till we're overhead the field. Should be coming into sight shortly here, I think. See if we can pick it out of the haze, even though, and I gotta say, like, a lot of time was also spent on the weather and the look of the sky, the way that the sun kind of really has, like, causes a shimmer on everything. A lot of that stuff is extremely well done, so if we could just get these airplanes to fly reasonably well. Or allow the developers who know how to make good airplanes into the sim, get into the nuts and bolts that they need to be part of, then I think we're gonna have some real winners here. But in the meantime, I still have been enjoying FSEconomy a ton. It's a good sim. It's a good way to use this sim because it really gets you into a lot of these smaller airplanes. One thing that was interesting was that the Citation CJ4 was split off from the Citation 10. So before there was no CJ4 in FSEconomy, and you had to fly the Citation 10 in FSEconomy if you're flying the CJ4 in Flight Simulator. But now they split it into a separate type where the CJ4 is its own type, and there is a way to convert existing Citation 10s to the CJ4 if that's what you're trying to fly, which is very well done, I think, on behalf of the FSEconomy administrators to sort of see what people are looking for and help, you know, not obstruct them, but help get them there. Because the CJ4 can definitely do some good hauling in this simulator. And in FSEconomy, it can take a bunch of passengers. It can make a lot of revenue really quickly. That's how I earned a bunch of the revenue to pay for this airplane was renting CJ4s and flying the pants off them. Because if you can find the right assignments, some VIP assignments, you can make a ton of money with the CJ4 pretty quickly. You burn through a lot of gas. You know, you burn through about $3,000 an hour to rent and fuel those airplanes. But you know, if you can make $15,000 in an hour and a half, then that $3,000 is not an unreasonable amount. There's the airport right there, I believe. Just a little bit to our left. So we'll fly overhead. We'll have a quick look at the windsock, see what it's doing, and pick a runway for arrival. Because we are pretty far from Winnipeg here. Winnipeg's saying 180-16 gusting 21, so it's a good crosswind here, favoring 0.8 ever so slightly, but it's almost pretty much a 9-degree crosswind one way or the other. That's the airport right there. I don't know if you guys can see it yet. A little bit of snow on some of these fields as we go by. Look at that farm complex, like the detail of these buildings here and the shapes of these different buildings. Like, you look at them and you're like, you get a hint that there's a real life down there. It's not just a generic building, but it is somebody's real farm down there. Morden, Manitoba traffic. TBM Charlie Golf X-Ray Sierra is about 10 miles to the northwest. 5 miles to the northwest, inbound to fly overhead the field, pick a runway for arrival. Alright, leveling off at 3,000. I'm going to keep the power up and just keep burning up the sky for a minute here. Ooh, it's a little bit too far forward. Just while we try and look and see what's out there. Alright, so we're going to disengage the autopilot now. We're just going to dodge a little bit to the right so that we can look out the left window here and see the field and the windsocks. So if it's possible, whenever you're flying, you want to put stuff on the left side of the aircraft because that's the side you're sitting on. It's the side you can definitely see out better. So So flying overhead the field here, we're going to try and see the windsock from 2,000 feet above it. I don't know if we're going to manage it really that well here, but we're going to try. We'll just start slowing down while we go overhead the field as well. I really cannot even see the windsock here. We're definitely losing some altitude. I'm just trying to see the windsock, and I don't see it at all. So we're going to swing around for 0.8. Yeah, I pitched up a lot there. I was focused on finding the windsock and not on where I was flying, which is not good. So it's a little bit of a violent maneuver, but let's go ahead and get established on a downwind here for 0.8. Gotta get down to about 1,700 feet for the downwind. Morden traffic, Charlie Golf X-ray X-ray Sierra is joining a mid-left downwind for runway 08. Should be level at 1,700 in the downwind. We're going to be down there in a moment here. Is also get that heading bug onto 0.8, so it provides a good reference when it's on the tail. We're on the downwind. There's 1,700 for our circuit altitude. Just gotta turn around onto the base leg here. That's pretty good right there. Go ahead and get the approach flaps out there. And we gained some altitude again while I wasn't looking. While I was looking at the runway here, it's probably far enough out. The other thing that's missing from the sim is not only a force feedback on the controls. That's one thing that always is missing in the simulator. But the other thing that's missing in the simulator that makes it so hard to fly is the sensation of motion, is the seat of your pants feeling. You can see it with your eyes, but oftentimes pilots fly as much by feeling the airplane accelerating, decelerating, turning, and obviously when you're just looking at a simulator on a screen, you can't do that. Alright, we'll go ahead and get the gear down. Get the speed back for our turn to final here. We want to get that last notch of flaps out here in a second. I think we're a little bit high, but once we get that last notch of flaps out, we'll be able to drag it in there pretty easily. There's the 122 knots, and here comes the drag. Actually, not doing too bad. Maybe a tiny bit high, but not really. I think we're doing pretty good. I also thought we maybe turned a little bit late, but it looks like we turned at just the right moment there. Alright, let's just get you just a little bit higher here. Getting a little bit slower than we should be on the approach here, so let's just add a bunch of power. Because that first little bit of power doesn't seem to do too much. There's a bit of a dead zone when you're dealing with the engine and the TBM here. You need to get the power up to about 30% torque before it really even starts to add any power at all to what you're doing. I've got a good crosswind going on here though, holy moly. Alright. Now we're a little bit too high. Okay, we got plenty of runway at this airport here. Ugh. That was not a nice touchdown at all. But we made it safely. Yeah, the winds were favoring 08 a little bit by the looks of it. It was not my smoothest approach ever, but we got her down. I'm going to blame the controls in Flight Simulator. I'm going to say it's very hard to fly a simulator very realistically. But nevertheless, we are here. And Morden traffic, Charlie Golf X-Ray X-Ray Sierra is clear of runway 08 taxiing the apron. Alright, let's kill the lights. Let's go park it where we found it over here, next to the other TBM. Trying not to taxi through the fuel pumps because that'll reset our fuel and that will not be good for FSEconomy's calculations. So we really have to kind of make sure you don't get too close to those fuel pumps. Well, while we're at it, we can disable the autopilot, the auto fuel transfer. Okay, good. We got through without the fuel did not increase at all. I wonder if they're ever going to add a PC-12 because they have a beautiful model of a PC-12 externally as AI traffic here. So I wonder if one day we're going to get a PC-12 as an aircraft in the sim. Alright, there we go. We are here. Let's just shut everything off so we don't kill the battery when the generator goes off. Alright, we got the strobes are off, the lights are off, the fuel pump can go off as well, and it's good. And that's it. We are done. FSEconomy flight logged. And that's it. We can go ahead and set up the kill the crash bar. We don't need to stop the flight there, but that's it. That was our FSEconomy flight for the day. And let's just go check our status really quickly here. And we got not a whole lot of cash, but if we check the payment log really quickly here. Check the payment log really quickly here. Made $2,800 for the first assignment, $2,100. We only had a handful of expenses, about $500 worth of expenses, so made about somewhere between $2,200 and $2,500 just for that little hour round trip from Morden to Brandon and back. And a lot of this money too, the FBO ground fees, half of them went just back to my own bank account here as the FBO owner. So also made a little bit of money in that respect. So making money every which way here. When you own the FBO and the airplanes, you can make money in FSEconomy pretty quick. But there we go. The sun is setting, and we are going to leave it there for the evening. So thanks, guys, so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's a beautiful day to go flying in a flight simulator, and we'll hopefully get some more Twitch streams out to you really soon later this year. So thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you really soon.